This is StoryRobot. Welcome to r/Tales from the Front Desk. Our first story of today is My Mother. I was working the opening shift on this day. As soon as I come in, our night person started telling me about an incident with a guest. They told me how they had put something into our safety deposit boxes and tried to get into it at 3 a.m. Now it is rare for guests to use them and they have never came that early, so we never told our overnight crew where our key was. They require 2 keys to open a master key, and the key we give to the guest. Since the overnight crew didn't know where it was and the guest was demanding to get into it, they called my manager at 3 a.m. Understandably, they weren't fully awake when they were called and was having a hard time explaining where it was because it needed 1 key to get into a box to retrieve the key we needed. And so after a while my manager just said to have the guest come back in the morning. This is where I come in. No later than 10 minutes into my shift and the night crew explaining what happened, the guest comes. They're upset, saying they have medication in the box that they needed. I explained to them that the night crew isn't trained on this and the front desk is closed at night. Which it is. They're here, but they're usually around the hotel doing other things. The guest did not like that, and as I was explaining this I was getting their box. Now this guest is an older guest and very depressed. They're always hovering around talking their mouth off, and they have been known to be disrespectful to everyone working in the hotel. But we know their situation and talk everything they said with a grain of salt and never take it personal. After I explained the policy and got them their box, I locked it up and they went up the elevator. They came straight back down, marched right up to the desk. They started going on saying my mother didn't raise me to respect my elders and that she did a horrible job raising me. That I'm only X years old and I have no right to speak to them that way. I went off. I stood up straight, looked them in the eyes, and I told them to never speak of my mother that way and that my mother raised me perfectly fine and they have no idea what my mother went through to raise me. My mother is a single mother of 3, and while raising me and my siblings, she was going to college and working and raising us all while keeping us fed and a roof over our head, making sure we were healthy and staying out of trouble. The guest started going on and I put my hands up, having enough, and I said, "That's it, I'm walking away," and I walked towards the back. As I was walking towards the back, the guest said, "That's right, walk away like how you do with your job." I was mad. My manager came in soon after that and I was still shaking with anger and I went off. I told my manager what happened and they spent an hour with the guest explaining how that wasn't okay. Of course the guest started crying and saying how I was in the wrong. And what put the icing on the cake was that my manager scolded me and said I shouldn't have gone off on the guest like that and how I should not have taken it personally. I'm sorry, but the guest purposely made it personal by bringing in my mother and personally attacked my mother and her parenting skills. I may be biased, but I believe my mother did an excellent job raising me. In all 12 years of school I only missed 2 days. I did a decent job with my grades, mostly B's, a few C's and A's. I never gotten into trouble. Okay, maybe a few times, but hey, I was a kid. And I already have my own car and a job and bills. I feel like I'm respectful to my elders and I'm pretty polite. But again, I might be biased. Who knows? Our final story of today is how I lost faith in human intelligence and decided to leave front desk. Before I begin, you must understand my property and the kind of manager I was at the front desk. This was my 2nd year at this property. I was the front office manager who reported to the director of front office. Essentially, I was in charge of strictly the front desk and I had seniority in deciding vote over the atoms. I was the type of manager that if the hotel did the guest wrong, I would give them the world. If it was just a matter of a guest wanting something, I forced the compromise and that's all you got. I was the manager that the staff went to when the guest was being unruly or irrational, because I was firm and didn't cave. 6 years ago, I worked at a 5-star luxury beach resort in a popular destination. We had rows of villas, ocean front and ocean view. With my title, I was responsible for the VIPs and villa guests. Our villas were literally miniature 2 or 3 bedroom 2-story houses. There was a plunge pool in the back that led to the beach. The main entrance was on the other side. So, because the IQ of the average guests drops 100 points after check-in, the sliding glass door that leads to the plunge pool has a gigantic magnet holding the door in place. Obviously, this came with a release in the form of a gigantic red button with the diameter larger than your standard household doorknob. The button is an eyesore because everything else in the villa is wood or cream color. It takes 2 bellmen and a golf cart to drop the guests off to a villa. One unloads, the other gives an orientation of the villa. The bellmen were trained to end the orientation with explaining the release button to exit via the sliding doors. Some of you may see where this story is going. Karen and her family checks in, I do the meet and greet. I don't join the orientation to the villa because I'm the only manager on duty and I'm anticipating a big VIP arrival. So towards the end of my shift, I get blind transferred a call from Karen screaming at the top of lungs before I can finish saying, "Thank She goes off saying that the sliding glass door slammed shut on her and her daughter's fingers. The doors aren't electronic, which only means one thing. So I have a habit of when I'm getting yelled at over the phone but I need beep done, I'll chuck a bean bag out into the main back office area, which signals I need work dispatch as soon as beeping possible. I had a bellman head down in a Villa cart to pick them up. I have valet grab one of the 5 house cars and to bring them to urgent care. When I finally get a turn to talk, I let her know the bellmen are outside, to bring her to the house car to get medical attention. She's still going off and I'm hunting down security and whomever took the call and did not alert Maud that a guest was injured on property. Now the fun part. As I'm typing this story, I remember this was a bad stretch for me. I was like on day 18 in a row, hour number 15 because managers calling out sick. We were close to the busy season so we kept getting the entitled, spoiled guests, but I felt like I was being taken advantage of because I gave a crap about my team. So, Karen and her 19-year-old daughter come back. I'm standing there watching both insult me and call me incompetent and how the resort was a pos. They're going to sue the hotel and I'm going to be sued personally and they were going to make sure I never work in hotels again, usual threats. After doing my spiel of apologizing and understanding their frustration, I asked them to review how exactly this happened. Karen proceeds to tell me that she couldn't get the door open so she tried to pry it with her hands. I asked her if she saw the red button, she confirmed she did. I asked her if she paid attention to orientation to the villa, of course she did, and the button was never mentioned. We have cameras along the property and because they were in an ocean front, you can clearly see the bellman exit via the sliding door, pop his head in and display body language similar to pointing out the button. I confirmed seeing this but obviously I didn't tell the guest. But I look at the daughter and ask how did her fingers get messed up. In a tone that honestly made me think that I was the stupid one. I was educated on how they forced the door open and both of them tried to pry at the same time and of course it collapsed. In my exhausted state, I of course lost a bit of my professionalism. Let me get this straight, after you tried to pry the door open and it slammed shut on you. You then tried to force it open again instead of picking up the phone? Why did you think that was a good idea? Madam, this is not on the hotel. I forgot what happens when you make the rich feel stupid, and she let me hear it to the point where I cut her off. Madam, if you cannot control yourself in my lobby, this conversation ends here. She didn't want to hear that and she kept going. To wrap up a long story, the hotel would end up settling a year later, and 6 months prior to that, my transfer request to housekeeping was approved. We now have painted the word exit on the button. There is a sticker decal on the sliding glass door giving instructions. But some of you may wonder, why such heavy sliding glass door? Due to the location, we were susceptible to tsunamis and hurricanes. Thank you for watching. Error. Problem detected. Not enough subscribers. Please subscribe, like and comment.